Brace yourselves, a sprint weekend is coming. There are a few more picturesque settings for a Grand Prix than the Styrian Mountains in Austria, and with that comes the possibility of scorching sun and heat or heavy downpours of rain. And if that wasn't enough for you, it's the second sprint weekend of the 2023 season after Baku hosted the first earlier this year. And of course there is a revised format, so I'll just run you through it if you're unsure, if you've forgotten how it works. So practice 1 is as normal on Friday morning, but Grand Prix qualifying is now on Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock local time in Austria. On Saturday, a little bit known now as Sprint Day, the Sprint Shootout, which is a shorter qualifying session of the same format, is used to set the grid for the sprint. And that will happen at 12 o'clock local time, with the sprint itself at 4:30 local time in Spielberg. And on Sunday, the Grand Prix starts at 3 p.m. Central European time, the Austrian Grand Prix of 2023. Now, Austria is a fun track. It's a short track. There's going to be lots of action. And there are a few bits that I've picked out as my favourites as part of a new feature. So my favourite corner on the Red Bull Ring circuit in Spielberg, Austria is turn 2 or turn 3 according to the track map, but it's the one at the top of the hill. It allows good passing opportunities. There is DRS into that braking zone and you can brake really late because it's uphill. Nice tight apex, so you can get down the inside and you can jump across the curb a little bit to make the move stick. But also if you go wider, you can square the car up, get good traction on the run down to turn 3 or 4, whichever way you want to look at it. And battles can last a few corners. We saw a few years ago Bottas and Verstappen side by side for several corners into the middle sector, and it all started sort of from turn 2 and through turn 3. So that's my favourite corner on this circuit. My favourite previous race in Austria is in 2016, which was won by Lewis Hamilton. It's famous for the final lap collision between Hamilton and his then teammate Nico Rosberg, as title tensions between the two teammates at Mercedes reached pretty much fever point following the Spanish Grand Prix collision there earlier that season. And it was also notable for the final points scored by Manor Racing by Pascal Wehrlein. So we're a fair way into the season now. We're getting a bit of a picture for how the championship is playing out. Max Verstappen leads by a very nice 69 points at the top of the championship, but there are some intriguing other battles, so let's go through some of those. Verstappen's Red Bull teammate Sergio Perez has had a rubbish run of form really, and I kind of predicted it back in my Spain predictions. He's now only 9 points clear of Fernando Alonso, 24 ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Checo's lack of form right now could see him drop below both of his closest rivals if his form doesn't pick up. And his poor results have been fundamentally down to poor qualifying. Poor qualifying in Monaco, where he crashed. He failed to make Q3 in Canada as well, and he managed to get knocked out in Q2 in Spain. So Checo's really got to pick up the pace in qualifying. He's got 2 attempts to do that this weekend. Lance Stroll needs a solid result to hold off Esteban Ocon in the current championship standings. Ocon has points in all of the last 4 races, finishing 9th in Miami, 3rd in Monaco and 8th in both Spain and Canada. Stroll has just 10 points against Ocon's 25 over those 4 races, which has led to even more questions about the Canadian's future within the Aston Martin team. Stroll's lack of results has allowed Mercedes to pass Aston Martin in the Constructors' Championship for P2 and would likely give the team with the worst strategies on the grid in Ferrari a chance to keep catching up in the Constructors for what is now P3. The Green team are just 22 points ahead of the Scuderia, and on a sprint weekend that could quickly be eroded if Ferrari perform well in Austria. And so we're going to move on to the bit while you're all here, predictions for the Austrian Grand Prix. Now, I'm not doing sprint predictions because that would just be an oversaturation of both my brain and you trying to figure out which predictions are which. So I'm just sticking to Grand Prix and pole position for the Grand Prix. So starting with pole, Max Verstappen. Winner, Max Verstappen. So I'll just move on to who and why I've chosen second place and third place. Lewis Hamilton is my pick for second place. Austria hasn't always been particularly kind to Lewis. Only the 2 victories there of his 103. But he's in good form right now. He's got podiums in the last 2 races. Monaco was okay for him. So I think we're seeing the Lewis of old. And as soon as that car is ready to challenge for wins and world championships, you'll see him just kick on another gear, 2 gears maybe. And it's important for Lewis to finish in second because he needs to close the gap to Fernando Alonso in their little personal battle in the Drivers' Championship. And also, it will throw him back into the fight, truly, really, for second in the championship. And third place, I've gone for Fernando Alonso. We're going to have another iconic podium, the most decorated podium in history, especially if Adrian Newey goes up onto the podium to celebrate Verstappen's probable win. Now it's going to be a bit of a coin flip between Alonso and Hamilton as to who finishes in front or not. So the way I've looked at it, the Mercedes is a slightly better all-round package, I think, at the moment. They're still understanding it. Aston Martin have brought some upgrades in Canada and they'll still be trying to get a handle on it. But the Mercedes is slightly less draggy than the Aston Martin at the moment. And with the long straights, 3 DRS zones, if Hamilton can get close enough and stay close enough in those corners, I can see him overtaking Alonso and I can see him being able to pull away too. Now, I haven't got Sergio Perez on the podium, and that's frankly because I don't know what we're going to get from him this weekend. We know Checo can be fast. He's got a very good car, but he's just not putting it to use in qualifying at the moment. And that was something that's plagued his career when he was in the midfield as well. He wasn't necessarily considered a great qualifier, and he's being found out at the moment. He needs to return to the early season form he had of this year and qualifying on the front row, and at worst case on the second row, because he can still fight from there. But if he's way down in sort of 12th or 11th, it makes his life so much more difficult, even if he has got the fastest car on the grid. And before I wrap up, I mentioned at the start we can get scorching heat or downpours of rain in Austria. And I'm just having a look now at the weather forecast for the weekend. On Friday, which of course is Grand Prix qualifying day, 80% chance of rain in Spielberg. And we know Verstappen, Hamilton, Alonso all go well in the rain. Perez, not always quite so much. So a little bit of rain could throw a few more surprises in. Maybe Hülkenberg gets on the front row and keeps it this time. On Saturday, again, a 70% chance of rain, which could make the sprint very interesting. We haven't had a wet sprint yet, which I think would be really, really fun, because there'll be lots of different lines, lots of people trying to make positions now, and maybe a few dramatic offs or something could really spice things up. And then on Sunday, a 60% chance of rain, thunderstorms in the area the whole weekend. I am recording this the Sunday before the race, so this is all subject to change, of course. But yeah, we could have some rain like we did in Canada last weekend, in Austria this coming weekend for the Austrian Grand Prix, and that is always something that spices up the action and makes it a little bit more enjoyable. So there you have my preview and my predictions. Let me know what your favourite corner on the Austrian circuit is, and tell me in the comments who you think is going to be on pole and who is going to win the race. For now though, I will see you next time. If you enjoyed, leave a thumbs up, give the video a like, share it with other people if you really enjoyed it, subscribe for more Grand Prix content, and thank you very much for watching.